Hey everyone, welcome to this live Basecamp Office Hours. My name is Kimberly from the 37 Signals product team, joined by Ashley from customer support. Thanks for joining us for this live session about Basecamp for educators. We're super excited about this session. We know we have a lot of teachers, principals, school administrators, even students who use Basecamp, and we have an amazing guest who is going to be with us, a principal, to share exactly how he uses Basecamp, and we'll answer some questions live. So just to get us started, we'll spend about 45 minutes together or so, just depending on how many questions that we have. And the session will be recorded. So if you want to pass it along to anyone on your team, just know that the link that you came to today to join us live is where the recording will live just a few minutes after we depart here today. Ashley, before we bring our friend out, do you want to give us a couple of other tips about things today?
Yeah. I feel like if anybody needs more specific help, if you're like, I get all of this, but my situation has these other factors, email us at support@basecamp.com. You can ask for me or anyone in particular, and we will try to meet you at whatever time makes the most sense. We'll get on Zoom and have a discussion all about it and come up with some solutions. You could also, if you're here right now, you could also just reply to the email that I'm going to send you afterwards. And that's a direct way to get to me. And then the last thing is, if any of this feels like it's too much, you need more basics, please go to basecamp.com/classes. All of our classes are live. They all have a Q&A portion, so you should be able to ask anything that you need if you kind of want more of like a general basis of what's going on in Basecamp.
Perfect. So I've popped that up on the screen, email address, which gets to Ashley and her team. And then right below us, you'll see a link to sign up for any live classes. So we've made that easy for you there. A couple of other things. We have the chat on the right side. It looks like some of y'all have found that. Let us know where you're from. We always like to know when people are joining us live, where they're coming to us from. So let us know that. And then you'll also see right below that chat icon, there's a question mark icon. That is where you should post any questions that you have for us during this session. It's a little bit easier for us to find those in the question mark section than in the chat. So if you have any questions that come up, post them there and we'll answer them throughout the session and then as well at the end. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to bring out our special guest. This is our friend Damon. He is part of the Basecamp community, which we'll share a little bit about that with you at the end. He is a principal from Alaska. I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing him. Damon, I want you to tell us a little bit about you and your journey with Basecamp.
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. Again, Damon Hargraves. I'm the principal of an elementary school here in Kodiak, Alaska. If you don't know where Kodiak is, we're on an island in the Gulf of Alaska, about 200 miles south of Anchorage. So, very excited to talk about Basecamp today. We use Basecamp a ton to communicate as an office staff and with our teachers and all of that. And I've been using Basecamp for about 15 years. I was
Oh,
thinking back to
wow.
way back in the day when I first started using it. I think it's been about 15 years now. So I've seen it go through a couple iterations.
Amazing. And Damon actually reached out to us and was like, this is a perfect time to be talking to people in education at the start of the school year. And Ashley and I were like, let's make it happen. So Damon, thank you so much for that. We're going to
Absolutely.
start. I'm going to pull up a few slides and screenshots to show you that Damon is sharing with us. You'll see some things that are hidden. There is some private information that we can't show you. So you'll see some of that blurred out. But I'm going to start, Damon, with your home screen and pop that up. Will you just kind of give us a high level view of what we're looking at here? And then we'll dig into some other screenshots of specific projects.
Absolutely. So we're here at the start of the year. Just a little bit more background. We're here at the start of the year, and I was thinking about all the things that need to happen this year. I was thinking about all the projects that are coming up and all the people I need to be staying in touch with, and I got really, really excited. And I was probably looking at this exact screen when I pinged you, Kimberly, and said, we got to get the word out to other admin. For you admin out there, principals, and even teachers, it is a really great time of year to start working in Basecamp. Just start with yourself and start bringing other people in. It's such a great tool. So these are the main projects that I'm a part of. You can kind of see how I organize myself in Basecamp with the colors. You can see some stacks there on the right hand side. PLCs and events are actually collections of projects. And you can see all kind of the main big areas that we use Basecamp for in the school. I think we're going to talk about some of these specific ones. I think we have slides for those, but these projects vary from just communicating with really key individuals to a big open hub there that you see that includes all the staff in the building, and then as well as other projects that are temporary, as well as ongoing projects that have been open ever since we first created them when I came to the school 4 years ago.
Okay, really quick. So the hub you said has lots of people in it. Kind of talk us through, are all your teachers part of Basecamp? Are there people that are not teachers that are also part of your account? Like kind of tell us who has access to this.
Sure. So we are using Basecamp with every staff member in our building. It's primarily done with the office staff is uses it heavily, and then our teachers use it heavily, and then our aides have access as well. And then if you notice that project there at the bottom that says PTA, that's our Parent Teacher Association, we actually open up our Basecamp to be utilized to collaborate with our PTA as well. So there's even some parents that are in our base camp.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, I'm going to go to this next slide, which looks like it is for your admin office project. So give me a second. Let me pop that up here. Tell us a little bit about what we're looking at, who's involved in this project, and then some of the tools that you're using.
Sure. So one of the questions that I often get asked, and this is why I'm starting with this project, is how do you get started? How do you get other people using Basecamp? One of the first things that you have to do with Basecamp, or one of the things I found to be successful, is you have to really be using it yourself at a high level, and then start bringing in key individuals. For me, as the principal, my first key individual that I needed to really be using Basecamp with was my secretary. So we run our office through Basecamp. She's literally on the other side of the wall from me. But I don't want to interrupt her when she's working, when she's doing deep work, when she's collaborating with other people. I don't want to interrupt her. And likewise, she's careful about interrupting me. So we use Basecamp for tons of communication. In here, you can see some card tables that we use for processes. So the big one on my list right now is hiring. We still have some open positions. School is starting in 2 weeks, and we have to get some positions filled as quickly as possible. So you can see hiring is right there in the upper left. We have some to-do lists that we use for basic communication. And again, often we will use those to-do lists for specific communication, phone messages, questions, and we can have a back and forth there in the comments of an individual to do rather than interrupting each other. So we're very careful about interrupting each other.
That's great.
The next, yeah, the next item there is purchasing. So that's another to-do list, but we utilize the hill chart just to give us a visual idea of what's happening with our individual budgets. And again, that to-do list, there's lots that happens in the comments. There's lots of attachments that get added in those to-dos, and it keeps us out of email. So we love those to-do lists. The other item there is office procedures. That's some docs and anything that we do from the office that we've never done before, we will document in our procedures. So one example of this that I thought you might like, Kimberly, is one of the very first documents that was created in here was basically what to do when there's a bear on campus. So I do live in Kodiak, Alaska. We do have the largest carnivore here with us on the island, and occasionally they walk through our campus here. So one of the very, very first documents that was created was a document for what to do when a bear wanders onto campus. All the communication that needs to happen. Okay, we're going to lock the school down and everybody's safely inside, but then there needs to be communication go out. So what does the email look like for parents? What does the text message look like for parents? What communication needs to happen with maintenance and central office? All of that. We documented all that once, and we've used that same document more than once since then. So,
That's
yeah.
amazing. I was telling Damon just before we hopped on that I went to Alaska a couple years ago, was on a hike and had to have bear spray. And I'm from Texas. We don't do those kind of things. So it was like, it was overwhelming, the bear spray. But now I know there's a procedure for that. That's amazing.
Yep.
I think that's
Absolutely.
super helpful because when you do hire new people, if they're not from Alaska, that's a totally
Yes.
new environment that they're in many ways. And so for anyone who's hiring, Basecamp really just ends up being such a nice resource of what's happened historically and ideally successful things, and then once a bear comes to your door and you learn another, like maybe we should phrase it this way, then you can
Yeah.
edit those and then update it and it lives on. So another
And
way.
Yeah.
I see you have like bus duty, cafeteria routine, and some of these things seem like, okay, they're very basic, but documenting them and putting them in a place where everyone can find them is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of that text that you see there is probably text from an email that I wrote and had to send out to staff. Well, that's text that I have to write every year because we have
Mm,
new stuff that come in. So why not go ahead and capture that, put it in Basecamp, and then it can evolve. So yes, I could go back and dig through, 10,000 emails and find my email from last year. But if I put it in Basecamp, then that idea, that concept, that text can continue to evolve. So when I see another idea from another principal, I jump into Basecamp and document that there. When I see something happen at another school, maybe I document that there to capture that idea.
Okay, and Damon, let me ask you this because you've been using Basecamp long enough. You were a Basecamp user before we had Cardtable and just had to-dos for managing tasks. Now I see that you're using both to-dos and Cardtable. Kind of talk us through. I know this is a question Ashley and I get all the time. We have our own answers, but I'm curious from your perspective how you decide when you use to-dos and when you use the Cardtable for these kind of projects.
I love card table for processes. So when there's an established process, like for hiring, for instance, there's a set process. Um, Most of that is in HR for me, but we have other things that we have to do with maybe the tech department and other things that we have to do in the building. We will make columns for all of that. Then we have a clear process that's outlined, very visual there in card table. Um, the other thing that I would say card table has an advantage of over to-dos is that it's very visual. So
Mm,
that card table there on the right, faculty and classified, that's a visual kind of pop-up display of the staff in my building. So there's no process there, but that's how I would visualize it if I wanted to put it up on a whiteboard. You
mm.
know,
nice.
that's the head-up display for what's happening in my building with staffing. And again, it's not a process; those are grade levels
Yeah.
and maybe uh, types of staff that I can have up and look at visually.
Very good. Anything else on this page before we flip to your next one?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think this is great. Okay, let's go to your next slide, which looks to be about your foundations. Let's see. What is this Peterson
yeah.
Foundations?
Okay, so foundations is a popular process. It's used all over the country, probably all over the world. Many teachers will know what foundations means. Essentially, it's a building level committee that helps establish shared processes throughout the building. That way, there's not like a different process in this first grade classroom versus this first grade classroom for how to get in line at lunch or how to
Mm,
exit the bus or all those shared processes. Well, we have an official committee that works on building those processes and standardizing some of the things that are happening in our school. So you can see the tasks there on the right. Here's some things that we want to work on. You can see a shared office calendar.
mm,
So that used to actually be in the admin project that we were just looking at. I moved it here because I wanted more people to be
mm,
involved in the creation of it. But this is the shared calendar for our building. This is also published publicly so that other people have access to this who aren't part of this project. Even publicly, they can see it. People who aren't in our building can see it. But this is a great tool for collaborating. Our foundations committee can add to that calendar. Something else that's huge for me as the administrator is shared development of our newsletters. So we just have these simple to-do lists here for our, we call it the puff date. That's the staff update that we send out through email. And that's the development of that is shared through this project. And then we also have another newsletter for parents, and we use it the same way. You can see there's a section for the handbook. We're sharing development on the handbook, docs and files. And then that last little section there, that's a messages tool that we're using for professional development. So one of the things that's unique to or special about Foundations is really you're working through a pretty extensive curriculum of what has been shown to be very, very successful in other schools. And so you're doing professional development over years. So you don't see it in here, but I actually have not just module A, but I think built out maybe to module C or D. And we're documenting as we go through the different uh, professional development so that the work never stops. So I don't want to get to a point where there's enough staff turnover that we can't just continue where we left off the previous year. Because it's all documented in Basecamp, you can see that there's comments on individual items there. So we can always go back and see why other committees did what they did maybe a year or two previous. And so that we can continue to work through all the different modules.
Amazing. Okay, tell me this about your calendar. I know when I use Basecamp, I put things on my Basecamp calendar and then I sync them to an external calendar. Do you do that as well? And are you suggesting that for other people on your team as well?
I think it's a great option, and we do have people that take advantage of that. I don't advertise it a ton. One thing about Basecamp that I love is that the public link is very, very simplified. So I can actually cut and paste, and this is just a personal process that works for us because we still kind of are addicted to email. We're not totally in Basecamp quite yet, but I can cut and paste that very, very simple formatting that's in the public page and share that out in the email that I need to use. So they're kind of getting it that way, but we do
Yeah.
have several people who are using that subscription link, which is awesome. It works great.
Very good. And then I also, you might have this in future work you're going to show us. I noticed that you're not using a chat tool or a campfire tool in this project. Is that intentional? And do you guys chat casually in some other piece of software?
We do, yeah. We have another tool that's used for chat in our district that we've adopted. That lives outside of Basecamp, and so I tend to not necessarily use the chat apps. Also, just as a principal, um, I understand that teachers don't really need to use chat a ton. So much of our work, and I think that this is why Basecamp works so well for us, is we need to work asynchronously. So if you think of a teacher's day, the vast majority of their day is in front of kids. 100% of their attention is on the students in front of them, and I want to protect that as much as possible. I don't want them getting email notifications. I don't want them getting chat notifications. And so much of our work needs to be asynchronous, and Basecamp is, of course, wonderful at that. And so that's kind of done strategically. Yeah, you
Okay.
noticed for
Yeah,
sure.
I did notice that. And what I love about Basecamp also is that you can turn on and off those things. So if you don't want it in your project, you just turn it off. If you don't need the docs and tools, you just turn it off. You have that ability to customize any project for just the
That's great.
tools you need. So, okay, let's move on to this next slide, which looks like it is instructional supports.
Okay, instructional support. So this is
Just
a
a lot
tool.
of card tables.
Yeah, again, I guess I love card tables, don't I? So
Great.
So this is a meeting that we hold weekly to really just make sure that students aren't falling through the cracks. So we have several people in this meeting. This is our RTI process, MTSS process. These are all acronyms that teachers will probably be familiar with. Our special education staff are in this meeting. Our counselors in this meeting. Other specialists are in this meeting. We use this to track the needs of our kids, and this is all done here in this project. We are actually physically in the same room usually, although it's school, so all kinds of stuff comes up all the time, but the work needs to continue throughout the week, right? So this Basecamp project helps us do that, and each specialist kind of has their own way that they need to track what's happening, and they can customize that within those card tables.
Love that. Again, this is just another customization that you can just have all card tables if you need in a project. Okay, let's go to this PLC stack. We'll take a look at that. I love, Damon, I love that these are all just a little bit different.
Yeah, so this is a stack. So if you don't know what a stack is, it's essentially a folder or a collection of projects. So if you're a teacher, you'll probably be familiar with the term PLC. That's our professional learning community. We have a little community of teachers within each grade level that's able to collaborate. Again, those synchronous collaboration times are super precious. They're also super infrequent, and yet again, the work has to continue, right? So we have these PLC projects within Basecamp. I wanted to show you this because I organized this in a stack. As a principal, I can click that link down on the bottom to see activity in all of these projects. So I don't have to go into each PLC to see what the latest activity has been. I want to try to attend the meeting, but I can't always do that. Being able to click that one button and see the activity in all those different PLCs is fantastic.
Oh, that's super smart that you did that way. I feel like that's one hidden benefit of stacks that people don't always think about is that you can see activity together. If you're using Move the Needle, you can see that all together just by grouping them together on a stack. Ashley, I think has dropped, or will you drop information about the stacks? I think you might have already done that. Organizing your home screen. The one thing to know with stacks is it is personal to you. How you're organizing your home screen, how Damon sees it is different than how any other administrator is going to see that. Each person gets to organize their home screen as they see fit. Okay, and then last but not least, I think we're going to dig into one of these projects. Let's look at first grade, shall we?
My mom taught first grade. I made a lot of billboards or whatever those are.
Bulletin boards, yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the peek into an individual PLC. I did actually make a template, and so that each year when I need to create a new PLC for the new team, I can just bring that template in. One thing that's missing, I'm just realizing in the screenshot, is we usually have a data dashboard, and we use my favorite tool, the card table, to make that data dashboard. So one of the first things that this first grade PLC will do here in just a couple weeks is create their new data dashboard for their students. And it's just a way for teachers to track what's happening with students and what the needs are, and make it visual. And within that card table, they can of course keep notes and comments and add all kinds of attachments and celebrations and all of that. So what you see here though is that to do, you can see some basic examples of what our first grade teachers were working on, and of course in those to-dos they can mention me, they can assign me things, they can assign each other things, and it's a great way to just keep track and make sure that we're moving forward in our collaboration. Over there on the right hand side is the meeting log. Now this is you're gonna have to remind me the name of this tool.
Automatic check-in. It's an automatic
Yeah,
check-in. I
automatic
love how you're
check-in.
using it.
Yeah, this was something that we started doing last year, and it was awesome. It was something that we hadn't done until just last year, and that's, I think, a tip for those of you out there that are thinking about using Basecamp, is Basecamp can kind of evolve as you go, and you'll recognize needs. Well, one of our needs was we needed a way to log our meeting notes and kind of log our activity as we go, just so that we know that we're kind of making progress and we're seeing what we're doing, and then from there it's an opportunity to share out to others what we're doing. So we started using this automatic tool that will automatically email you. You can see it's asking the four people that are in this PLC. They're going to receive an email at 1 o'clock, which is right at their meeting time, and one of them is in charge of responding, and they can determine that themselves. But they're asking some basic questions that we've kind of trained them on, that kind of mean a lot more to us than what you see there. But there's a lot that they can answer and a lot that they can put into those to that log. And of course, in that log, they can mention anybody else that's in the project, including me, if they need assistance or if they want to share something, and then I can comment back. And there can be a whole additional discussion thread happen over the course of the week before the meeting happens again.
I mean, I actually really love that automatic check-in use
Yeah.
as like meeting notes. It's great. I don't know that I've seen that before. That's great. Um, Bria, I do see your question. I'm going to get to that. But Damon, I have a question for you first, which I feel like people want to know, which is how did you train people on this? Like when you decided 15 years ago, I'm going to use Basecamp, how did you get buy-in from people?
So in my past life, I was tech director, I've been tech liaison, I've done a lot of training. We spend very little time actually training in Basecamp, and that's one of the reasons that I really like Basecamp. I think how we've rolled it out was important with that. We didn't have to have a big, kickoff event or a big buy-in event and trying to get people to use it. We started small, started here in the office, and slowly started bringing people in. Within a school, one of the advantages is that you will inevitably have meetings that you have to attend, and if you're using Basecamp in those meetings, then people just kind of absorb the
Mm.
way that they need to work in Basecamp. So we've had very, very little explicit training in Basecamp. I will have occasionally kind of one-on-one help with people, and then when other people want to set projects for the first time, I might help them. But that's kind of how we go about it. Because it's so easy, really, there's kind of like zero level barrier of entry with Basecamp because of the email notifications. You can kind of start literally from zero and kind of slowly work your way in, and it's very natural.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go to Bria's question. Damon, I'm going to read it to you. There's a couple things in it I think we can discuss. But she has said, and Bria, jump in if there's anything you need to add. I've set up 60 projects for 60 projects for 60 schools, educators across the county and US territories in order for them to oversee and manage an out of school student led competition project with their students. Our projects are set up to be a resource hub, task managing tool, and main method of communication for both educators and students throughout the duration of the project. I think that makes sense. Many teachers have highlighted being overwhelmed by the Basecamp notifications. On one hand, they say it's too many emails, but don't want to turn notifications off out of fear they might miss something important. How should I set up the Basecamp project to cater to both educators who need to be in the know in project progress, but not necessarily hands-on, and students who sometimes require that their teacher follows up to make sure an administrative task gets done? That is quite a question. Ashley, I'm sure you probably have opinions as well. But Damon, do you want to jump in? Notifications. Have you heard concerns from your team about notifications and how to handle
Yeah,
them?
absolutely. And you can see how many projects I'm in and how many people are involved. And if I wasn't careful, I would have a full inbox with a gajillion notifications. One of the things, and maybe Ashley, you can help me explain this better, but there's a way to set up your notifications to kind of summarize activity.
Mhm.
And so those email summaries are really valuable. I will plan to review those when I'm having to check my email, but that keeps me from having an individual notification for everything.
Yeah. So technically, email notifications, I just linked to a page that covers basically everything about notifications. And when you go to kind of make, change your settings, when you turn off email notifications, it doesn't make any adjustments to what are called reports. And those reports are, okay, what's the latest activity in my account across the projects that you're following, right? Another one is like, what are my assignments? So there's really only two. There might be a third one that I'm not thinking of right now, but those are not turned off by default. So even if you uncheck email notifications, which was one of the first things I did when I moved to Basecamp, 8 years ago, I received a lot of emails, but I have that one email for the community space and for our company accounts. So that is by far one of the easiest ways to reduce notifications. I could think of more, but I wonder if you have anything else.
I would also suggest making sure people know that they can follow a project,
Mm-hmm.
which eliminates all the major notifications.
Let me send you another page. Might be valuable to show it if you want me to. I might share my
So
screen.
I'm similar to Ashley. I have email notifications turned off for Basecamp. I'm in Basecamp all day, every day, so I don't also need emails. Prior to working here, I was a Basecamp user and I had emails turned on simply because I wanted that extra item in my inbox to know I had something to do or to follow up on or to read. I needed that extra little hint of work to do. So it really kind of depends on how involved someone wants to be. And I think that can be an individual decision. We also often recommend pointing people who are like overwhelmed by logging into Basecamp to the Basecamp app, simply because it is very easy when you look at your email on your phone to click through and open up the Basecamp app and be able to respond there. I think that is also kind of a helpful way to get people over the hurdle of having to go into Basecamp all the time.
I've actually turned off all my notifications. The only ones that I have are in the app, and it's only the badge because I don't need the preview. I don't need to be drawn into anything. So just even having that small number is helpful. And there is also, when you can see on this page, hopefully you all can see it. There's in this project, any project, you can click on set up people and then either adjust yourself or adjust others so that you're just following or on the project. That really doesn't do anything other than reduce your notifications from being default everyone to other people say, just the people on the project. So that is the visual for that other one. Now let's do change your notification settings. Maybe I want to reduce it like this. This doesn't take away anything from your Hey menu. So this is also perfectly fine to do. Maybe I want to be notified about upcoming assignments, turn off my email notifications. And then personally, I don't work on Fridays or Saturdays. So I have those days turned off. And I want to be caught up if anything happens after hours. So you can definitely kind of get this to be a little bit more specific to whatever you prefer. And then if you do have any issues, that question mark. The
I think
Basecamp
that
team.
checkbox was kind of what I was mentioning about the email summary.
Mhm.
I really utilize that a lot. I like that feature.
Yeah,
Me too.
I do too. That's like the first thing when I'm like on a walk in the morning, walking my dog, I'm just like catching up, especially because we're such a 24-hour company. We have employees all over the world. So work is literally happening 24 hours a day. It's just a nice place to see things you need to see and scroll past things that you don't. Bria, I also was going to recommend having some sort of guideline for your group about at mentions. We use at mentions a lot internally when like you really want someone to look at something and not have it just kind of get skipped by. So Ashley's going to show us exactly how you can do that, but just using that at symbol and then popping up their name. When they get a notification, it will be highlighted that there's something specific. So I think that can also be helpful too. People might not just be doing it naturally, but setting the precedent of like, hey, when you want someone specific to look at something, please make sure you at mention them, I think can be helpful as well. Damon, it sounds like you guys at mention a lot.
We do, and just you can at mention pretty much anywhere. So you can at mention in the body of whatever you're creating, or in the notes of whatever you're creating, as well as in the comments.
Yeah, I hope that is helpful. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions. Well, I'm going to keep that question and answer session open in case anyone pops up with any. Ashley, I'm hoping you can show us, Damon mentioned some public links. Can you show us, since you have this open, how you can create public links for people who might not want to or might not have access to the Basecamp account?
Yeah, I'm thinking about how our own team uses it for hiring, and I love it. And it's where they will set up like here's what's going on your first day. We know that you're not in the system yet, but it's coming up, but here's what you can expect so that you're not totally walking into a million things on day one. So whatever it is that you're sharing outside, you click on the three-dot menu, and in general, click on the three-dot menu and kind of see what's available, because there are more options, I think, than people realize. But there's a section called Share, and that's where you can click on Get a Public Link and say, am I going to show comments? Let's go with no. Let's generate a shareable public link, and it's going to look to anyone in the world like this. It'll say who last updated it. You can't see any of the edits from previous things like you can in Basecamp, but it gives you all the information that you need.
And that comment here did not have any comments added to it. But if there were something where there's additional comments added, we'd have the option to show those as well. And Ashley, of course, is going to whip that up.
So right now, because I deliberately have it turned off, it's not going to show it. But if when I go back to get a public link, you can set it up again so that it has that there.
And then we have the option to either show those comments or not show those comments. Oh,
I made a new one. That's why.
yeah, there we go. And then you would see any comments there. So if there is more conversation happening on an item, a scheduled event, a task, a to-do, whatever it is, you can allow those comments to be shown to the person who has the public link as well.
Mm-hmm. And then for admin folks, you can also turn these off in bulk whenever you need to. Maybe I need to manage my public items. I'm very judicious about it in this account, so there aren't many, but you can always just turn them off whenever you need to, or at least visit whatever's going on. So, and those things are marked in the kind of the log of what's happened.
Damon, I'm curious from you if there's any things that you can think of, having done this for so many years and working in this capacity with Basecamp. Are there things that you've learned along the way that you're like, ooh, I would never do this again, or we made this change and it worked for the better? Anything with managing that Basecamp account in your school you can think of that you've changed?
I think just knowing that it's an evolution. So start simple, start small, start with yourself, start with those that you work most closely with. If you're in a position like me where I'm at the building administration level, and let Basecamp evolve. I think it can get a little overwhelming if you just kind of turn everything on and go nuts with everything. That might work for some, but in a school setting where you have such a variety of ability levels and you kind of have so many different projects and different uh, needs, letting Basecamp evolve for you is one of the things I've definitely learned. You kind of have, or as an administrator, maybe you have a what you think is a great idea of how everything needs to work. Uh, and maybe that's where you have to start because you have to start somewhere, but it really should evolve over time and let Basecamp change based off of what the needs are.
That's great. And then I do have another question for you, Damon, about, I know we didn't look into this project, but you mentioned that you have a project for the PTA where parents are also involved in that. Tell me a little bit about the process of getting that level of person involved in Basecamp. Unlike your administrators, teachers who are with you every day, I mean, these are kind of in and out kind of folks in the Basecamp project. How has that worked with getting them involved in this project?
It's again, it's so Basecamp is very simple to start. So there hasn't, we didn't have a PD day with the PD or with the PTA or a training session with the PTA. We were able to just start, and they were able to start based off of the notifications that they received in their email, and it's a very natural progression. You can really start from zero. On that point, I started bringing in our PTA as a client. I've kind of played with that, and I've kind of gotten to the point where I section off a user group, is it called, for the
Oh,
PTA, and they're all in there as full users within our Basecamp. But by having them as a group, you can provision certain access in some ways, so that's helpful.
that's
Hopefully
great.
that was
And
too
yeah, a lot of people don't know about that group feature. Ashley, do you want to show that to us?
Yeah.
How you can, and in a school setting, you could do all the English teachers as a group or all the first grade teachers as a group. And then when you want to mention them, it's a very easy process.
So in admin land, anyone who is an admin or owner would have the option to manage groups. And this is where we would say, everybody who in this grade year or all of our custodians or whatever it is. And so you'd put the people in whatever, organization makes the most sense. And then when you get to a project or anything really, when you go to add people, you can just bring in like our designers or our leadership team or anyone else and add them to the project in bulk like that.
Love that.
And then also when I'm creating their users, I specify, is it the company field,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when you're creating a new user. So I will say, like, our school PTA. And one of the benefits I found of that is that when you uh, allow a group to be all access, you can specify only for a certain group. So that keeps the PTA from inadvertently joining a group that I wouldn't want them in.
Right. So that is a project setting. And that is where we say, whenever you create this project, you have this option, but it's also there later. So no worries. We can always put anyone from my company. So just the school. Or if we're bringing in the PTA folks, then we can choose anyone on the accounts, maybe the clients. So there are options here. Anyone I invite, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I'm going to go to Bria's second question. It sounds like we were helpful for her for your other one with the at mentions, and she's going to try that email summary, which I think you'll love. Her follow-up question is, can you go, Damon, this is for you. Can you go into greater detail on how the hub is used? I'm considering a project space specifically for the teachers so that we can blast announcements and program-wide updates, but don't want them to share school or project-specific questions or concerns in that space. Any setup suggestions? Let me see if I can pull up that slide. I'm thinking maybe
I
on
don't think
here.
I took a screenshot of the hub.
Can you tell us kind of how it's
But I can
structured, or how you use that?
So that hub is the one spot in our building where everybody has been invited. Everybody who is a teacher or a staff member has been invited. It's a launching off spot. So there's not a again, just because I don't want people to be inundated with too many notifications, or I don't want things to go um, you know, get too busy unnecessarily in a spot. We use that hub for sharing and linking out. So sharing static documentation and linking out is primarily what that's used for. I think depending on the how big your organization is or how many people are in there, you would definitely want to kind of play around with a chat feature. You could have a lot of fun with that. You could have recurring questions that come out for fun. I have thought a lot about having that as a spot to kind of build culture within my organization, and the specific work that's usually involving a smaller subset of people is happening in different projects. But that hub area, again, is really a starting place to link out.
And honestly, it kind of sounds like how we use our HQ project. So we internally have a project that everyone in the company is on. It is the one place where company-wide announcements are posted. Like if there's an announcement about anything that everyone needs to know about, that is where that information lives. It is not anywhere else other than that HQ project. So it kind of sounds like a similar situation that you're looking to do, which totally makes sense. And I think it's also too structuring it. You're saying you don't want them to share school or project specific questions in that space. We internally do a really good job of segmenting things. Like this is what the HQ is for. And you're not posting about HR questions in the HQ. You're not posting about bug reports for software in the HQ. It's like very clearly defined. These are the tools and this is how that project is used. So I think, Brea, I think that's kind of your answer. Damon's calling it a hub. We call it an HQ, but it's really just a project that's like everyone is involved in, and it has all the major announcements. I hope that helps. You guys, I think we've answered all of our questions here.
I have one
Ashley.
more question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to know, Damon, if there were any integrations that you all use that are like, do you use our API to build anything so that it works well with Basecamp, or is there any like Zapier stuff going on, or does it kind of feel nicely separate? Do you have any doors open in any of your projects to anything else?
Yeah, so the links out that I was talking about were using doors to link out to other tools, projects, like the master spreadsheet that we have to use for this thing is all linked in Basecamp. So really, you just need to get into Basecamp, and then it'll get you to where we know are the most important things that you need
Mhm.
to know. So yeah, so that hub uses more doors than any other projects. Probably all the other projects combined. There are more doors in that hub.
Nice.
Amazing. Okay, friends. We have wrapped up our questions. Ashley's going to send you a follow-up email. So if anything comes up in the meantime, you can simply reply to that email. I'm going to drop, we do offer some free accounts related to education. I'm going to drop a link to that in the chat. Ashley, do you want to kind of give people a rundown on how that works?
Yeah, for students using it for their classwork and teachers using it for their classwork to kind of help yourselves get organized, maybe collaborate with each other, we have a free account for you. So write to us. It's a slightly different email address. So you'll see it on the basecamp.com/discounts page, and we'll ask you some questions and then make sure that we mark your account as free. So that we've been doing for a really long time. We will continue to do it. So it's not a limited edition thing, but definitely email us with any kind of questions. But I also want to point out the Basecamp community could also be an interesting place to join, because not only does Damon live there, but he also created this amazing project that's like Basecamp for schools. And we put some of this work in there too. And we'll put this entire crowdcast session there as well. And so anybody can, in a month from now, they'd be able to see what's happened and really get up to speed with how Basecamp has been successful for other people. So another great place to ask people questions, especially when they're in your industry.
So I put a link just below me. If you click on that, that will take you to information about the Basecamp community. As Ashley said, that is how we know Damon. He is one of our Basecamp super fans, longtime users who's part of that community. There's actually, 2,000 something people in there?
2,500-ish.
2,500 people who are using Basecamp. It is really a great place to collaborate, get questions answered by other people who are using it. There's even a specific project for education. So there's other teachers, administrators within one project, and sharing ideas about how to use Basecamp. So if you'll click that link, I think there's a quick survey, and then Ashley and Robert on our support team admit people into the community, and we'll see you over there. You guys, thanks for joining us. And Damon, thank you for your time and for sharing all your expertise. We appreciate you a lot. You guys have a great rest of your day, and let us know if you have any questions.